In this video, we will be seeing how to measure 12 different parameters. 1. DC voltage, 2. AC voltage, 3. Resistance of a resistor, 4. LED check, 5. Continuity check, 6. Capacitance of a capacitor, 7. Diode test, 8. Forward bias resistance of a diode, 9. Reverse bias resistance of a diode, 10. Gain of a transistor, 11. Direct current, and 12. Alternating current. Let's start. This is a digital multimeter. It has a power key used for switching it on or off. The DH key is used for holding any data shown over the screen. There are 4 ports in a digital multimeter: port 1, port 2, port 3 and port 4. If you want to measure voltage or resistance of a resistor, then connect the red probe to port 1. Black probe is always connected to COM port. If you want to measure a small current, then connect the red probe to milliampere port, that is port 3. But if you want to measure current up to 20 ampere, then connect the red probe to 20 ampere port. These two ports are for measuring the capacitance of a capacitor. This circular pin, which is shown here, is used to measure the gain of a transistor, NPN or PNP transistor. There are different symbols: resistance, DC voltage, AC voltage, gain, farad, AC current, DC current, continuity, and diode. This is the pointer of a multimeter. Let's understand about the probe of a multimeter. There are two probes in a multimeter, the red probe and the black probe. The black probe is always used in the COM port, and the position of red probe changes on the basis of parameter which we want to measure. Before using multimeter, let's understand the various symbol of a digital multimeter. This is the symbol of a ohm. Put the pointer to ohm if you want to measure resistance. The V stands for voltage, and this is the symbol of direct. If you want to measure DC voltage, then set the pointer to VDC. This is the symbol of alternating, and V stands for volt. Thus, if you want to measure AC voltage, set the pointer towards it. If you want to measure amplification or gain of a transistor, then set the pointers to HFE. F stands for farads. To measure capacitance of a capacitor, set the pointers to F. This is the symbol of A. A means ampere. Thus, if you want to measure AC current, set the pointer towards it. This is the symbol of ampere, and this is the symbol of direct. Thus, to measure DC current, set the pointer towards it. This is the symbol of buzzer. To measure the continuity of a wire, set the pointer towards it. Then this is the symbol of diode. To measure the diode test, forward bias resistance of a diode, reverse bias resistance of a diode, set the pointer towards it. Before using digital multimeter, we must make sure about two things. First, if the pointer is in correct position or not, and second, if the probes are at correct points or not. Now I will show you how to measure from points 1 to point 12. Let's start with point number 1, DC voltage. To measure DC voltage, I have a 9 volt battery. Set the pointer to DC voltage. I am setting it to 20 volt and connect the red probe to voltage point. Now to measure DC voltage, connect the positive probe of a multimeter to positive of a battery and negative probe of a multimeter to negative of a battery. The battery is of 9.13 volt. This is how you can measure the voltage of a battery. Multimeter is also used to measure the polarity of a battery. To measure the polarity of a battery, to show you how to measure the polarity of a battery, I am connecting the black probe, that is negative probe of a multimeter, to positive of a battery, and positive probe of a multimeter to negative of a battery. And let's see. As you can see, it is showing minus 9.09 volt. Thus, if the voltage is in minus, we can say the polarity is opposite. Thus, in this way, we can know which is positive and which is negative of any battery. Now, point number 2, AC voltage. To measure AC voltage, set the pointer to AC volt. Here I have set it to 750 volt, since the voltage in our home is 240 volt. And now connect the 2 point of a multimeter to 2 point in a port. And as you can see, multimeter is showing 234 volt. This is how you can measure the voltage of any AC system. Point number 3, resistance of a resistor. To measure the resistance of a resistor, set the pointer to ohms. I am setting it to 200 kilo ohms as of now, and set the red probes to voltage / ohms port. Since the resistor do not have polarity, we can connect positive and negative of a multimeter to any points. As you can see, the multimeter is showing the resistance of a resistor as 50.8 kilo ohms. This is another resistor. Since the multimeter is showing 0.4 kilo ohm, means 0.4 into 1000, it means the resistance of this resistor is 400 ohms, or you can lower it down to 2k. Now it is showing 0.468, so that we can say the resistance of this resistor is 468 ohms. As you can see, multimeter is showing 1. It means we have to increase the pointer. I'm increasing it to 200k, 122.6 kilo ohm. In this way, you can measure the resistance of a resistor. Point number 4, LED check. LED has two pins. The longer pin is positive and the smaller pin is negative. To check LED, set the pointer to continuity. Now connect the positive probe of a multimeter to positive of a LED and negative probe to negative of a LED. As you can see, LED is glowing. Thus, we can say that this LED is correct. In this way, LED checking is done. Point number 5, continuity check. We usually do continuity check to see if the cable is broken or not, if it can be used or not. Thus, for continuity check, I am setting the pointer to continuity. Now connect the 2 point of a multimeter to 2 point of a cable. As you can see, the multimeter is giving beep sound. It means the cable is absolutely fine. We can use it. Now point number 6, capacitance of a capacitor. I have this capacitor. Capacitor also has two pins. The longer one is positive and the smaller one is negative. To measure the capacitance of a capacitor, set the pointer to 200 microfarad. Now insert these two pins in these 2 points. As you can see, the multimeter is showing the capacitance of this capacitor at 61.9 microfarad. In this way, you can measure the capacitance of a capacitor. Just insert these two pins in these 2 points. Now point number 7, diode test. Diode has two parts, anode and cathode. Anode is positive and cathode is negative. The silver one is cathode, which is negative, and the black part is anode, which is positive. To do diode test, set the pointer to diode. Now connect the positive of a multimeter to positive of a diode and negative of a multimeter to negative of a diode. As you can see, the multimeter is showing some fixed value, which means diode is conducting from positive to negative. Now I am connecting positive of a multimeter to negative of a diode and negative of a multimeter to positive of a diode. And as the multimeter is showing 1, it indicates diode is not conducting in reverse mode. Thus, we can say this diode is working fine. Point number 8, forward bias resistance of a diode. To measure the forward bias resistance of a diode, set the pointer to 200 kilo ohm. Now connect positive of a diode to positive of a multimeter and negative of a diode to negative of a multimeter. The forward bias resistance of this diode is 120 kilo ohm. This is how you can measure the forward bias resistance of a diode. Point number 9. As you know, reverse bias resistance of a diode is greater than forward bias resistance of a diode. I am setting the pointer to mega ohm. Now to measure reverse bias resistance, connect the negative of a diode to positive of a multimeter and positive of a diode to negative of a multimeter. As you can see, the multimeter is showing the reverse bias resistance of 0.78 mega ohm. This is how you can do diode test, forward resistance of a diode and reverse bias resistance of a diode. Point number 10, gain of a transistor. As we already know, transistor has 3 pins, emitter, collector and base. To find the gain of a transistor, set the pointer to HFE. This is PNP transistor. To measure the gain of a PNP transistor, I am setting these 3 pins in these 3 holes. As you can see, the multimeter is showing the gain of this transistor as 927. This is how you can measure the gain of a transistor, NPN or PNP transistor. If you have PNP transistor, set this pin in the right side. If you have NPN transistor, then set this pin to left side as written on the multimeter. Now point number 11, DC current. To measure the DC current, I have made this circuit. This is voltage, this is LED, this is resistor of a resistance 2200 ohms, and this is emitter. Now I will show you how to measure DC current by implementing this circuit. This is 9-volt battery. Now to measure the DC current, set this pointer to DC. Now setting the right probe to milliampere port. As you can see, I have made the circuit similar to this one. Now to measure DC current, as shown in the circuit, I am connecting negative of a battery with negative of a multimeter and positive of a multimeter with resistance. As you can see, the multimeter is showing 2.7 milliampere current. This is how you can measure the current flowing in the DC circuit. Point number 12, measurement of AC current. To measure AC current, set this pointer to AC current and then set this probe to 20 ampere port. And now this multimeter will act as an emitter and thus set this emitter in a series of a circuit as we have done for a DC current. Similar process you have to repeat. Since AC current flows in large quantity in comparison to DC current in AC circuit, you have to be very careful. It is risky. Do not calculate it if you don't need it. Follow the same process as indicated in the measurement of DC current. Thank you. I hope you have understood everything about how to use a multimeter. Please feel free to ask any question if you have in the comment section. I will try my best to answer it. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to my channel Electrical Mind for more amazing videos.